Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Cancer to Marathon. This is Chapter 5 in the My Story series. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about how I got, or how I believe that I got to the molecular remission that we talked about in the last video. And I kind of teased that a little bit and, told you that I made some significant lifestyle changes, having to do primarily with diet. But also, with some other factors. And so I wanted to go into that a little bit with you today, not only so that you can understand, how I might have come to that molecular remission without any additional chemotherapy after my induction and consolidation rounds, but also so that you might know how you could prevent this disease from happening to you, or maybe other chronic diseases from happening to you. Just felt like it was great information for everybody to know. So the first thing to know would be that when I left my job with the San Antonio Spurs back about 3 months before I was diagnosed, a couple of reasons that I left that job. It was a job that required a lot of long hours. I put a lot of stress on myself to do that job at a very high level. And because of the stress, I didn't take great care of my body. I also didn't take great care of my mind. And so there were some things that I kind of had to rewire. And, what better time to do that when you've got a lot of time on your hands sitting in hospital rooms. But even before then, I wanted to get myself spiritually in a better place, and mentally and physically in a better place. And so the first thing I did was I really tried to put God first in any decisions that I made. And that basically started in the morning. I joke, but I'm completely serious that as I'm standing deciding what pair of underwear to wear that day, I try to let God guide me in that. Is it going to be the black ones or the gray ones today, right? But if you can let God be part of little decisions like that, it makes it so much easier just to rely on Him in all the other decisions that you make throughout the day. And so you just form good habits. And that is certainly one of the best ones that I believe that you can form, and something that I felt was really instrumental in my decision-making process throughout the whole treatment plan, obviously along with help from my caregivers as well. And so that was huge for me. Along with that, was obviously, turning to Him on, what can I be doing to help impact the way that my result of this situation goes. And I felt like there were some things that He was telling me, hey, there's some things that you can control, alongside obviously leaning on your doctor's expertise for a few other things. And so one of those was certainly my diet. In the past, particularly being as stressed as I was for a while there, and again, that's just kind of my personality type, or was my personality type. I've gotten better at that. A lot of processed foods. If I was stressed out, I would go on stress binge eating. I'd go to lunch and I'd eat very unhealthy things, pizza, fried chicken, burritos, whatever I could get my hands on. And be drinking sodas, things of that nature, just because I felt like that was kind of my reward for having worked through, whatever the tough issues of the day were. And that was a dangerous thing for, and a dangerous mentality for me to be feeling. So basically, through watching probably one too many Dr. Oz episodes in the hospital and doing a lot of research on my own on the cancer that I had, and what others had done, because obviously I'm not the first one to ever go through this. There was a lot of really positive talk for a clean diet. And I felt like, hey, even if that doesn't help my cancer, it's going to make me a healthier person, which again, once I got done with my consolidation therapy, I wanted to get myself into a situation where my body could fight off free radicals and anything that might form cancer or mutate my genomes, to just give myself the very best chance of my immune system being at full strength. And so basically what I did, and I tried not to overcomplicate it, was I tried to eat as many whole foods as possible. Now, what does that mean? Really what that means is you want to stay away from anything that wouldn't come straight from the ground, or come straight from an animal potentially, right? Or fish, or whatever the case might be. Basically, if Jesus couldn't have eaten it 2,000 years ago, I probably shouldn't be eating it right now. Now, there are certainly pre-prepared foods that are okay as well. Basically, it's taking those things from the ground or taking those things from an animal. They're pre-preparing them for you. They're not putting any kind of special preservatives in there that you can't pronounce that are different chemicals, but they're putting them in a jar, and for the most part those are okay. And we're going to actually go on a little tour here in just a second, so that I can show you a little bit of what I looked for. But the big thing is to read the ingredient label on any type of pre-prepared foods that you purchase. Not necessarily the nutrition label. That's important too, but primarily the ingredient label, and know exactly what's included in those foods, those pre-prepared foods. Again, if you have time to prepare the foods on your own at your own home, that's probably going to be preferable. You're probably going to save yourself some sodium and maybe a small amount of added sugar as well. But primarily, knowing what's in there is important. The other thing I tried to do was I tried to get rid of any kind of bleached or processed flours or other types of grains. So trade out your white pasta for your whole wheat pasta. Your white rice for your brown rice. Your white flour for whole wheat flour, and that way you're getting the full nutrients from those more nutrient dense products. You want to kind of change your mindset to what can I be putting in my body at this point in time that's going to give me maximum nutritional benefit. And by eating highly processed things like bleached flours and certainly sugars, raw sugars, or anything, organic cane juice, juice concentrate, things like that are primarily just a concentration of sugars, you want to try to stay away from, because there is a lot of scientific data to show that sugar will feed any kind of cancer cells that you have in your body, which we all have cancer cells in our body. It's just a matter of how well does our body suppress those. And if you have a good immune system, then chances are your body's suppressing those very, very well, and so you don't have quote unquote cancer. But if you don't, then you're letting those cells just consistently feed, and that's when you start to have problems. And so that's why the whole food, the nutrient-dense food, is so important. If you can avoid things that are high in different hormones that might have been added hormones to meats. So if you can keep with your grass-fed, organic if possible, which means basically it's been fed with feed that hasn't been exposed to pesticides. Same thing with the organic vegetables. Again, organic fruits and vegetables. Again, try to stay away from anything that might have been exposed to pesticides or something that's just unnatural. And then wash those things. Make sure that you know that what you're ingesting is clean, both from a physical standpoint and from a molecular standpoint itself. Stay away from anything that might have been genetically modified. We don't want to be putting something that's genetically modified in our bodies when in fact it's genetic modification that is causing the issue that we're having. And so the more you can kind of stay on top of all of that, the better. People always ask about eating out. That's something that is kind of tough. Obviously you can't eat, raw organic, non-GMO foods always when you eat out. So what our philosophy was on that was just to kind of minimize it. Never to say not at all, but maybe once or twice a week. And certainly when I do go out, I look for things that comply basically with my normal diet. And I try to make sure that especially on the sugar side, I'm not eating something that's going to be high in sugar and fuel those cancer cells. So what I'd like to do is let's go take a quick little tour of our kitchen and our pantry, and I'll show you what I've done to substitute healthier options for foods that previously were some of my very favorite foods. And that way, I didn't have to completely change my diet, but I could find a healthier alternative of the same foods that I liked. And there's plenty of options out there. So let's go take a look at some of those. Okay, so we're down here in my kitchen now, and I just wanted to go over a few quick things. I think snacks are the hardest part of changing your diet. It's much easier for breakfast and dinner. You can have things like eggs, you can have things like meats. It's a lot easier to have whole foods, couple those with some vegetables and some fruits on the side, and you're good to go, right? But snacks is usually when we eat our higher processed foods. And so I wanted to show you a few things that I've done to still eat the foods that I like to eat, but have a healthier alternative. And these are just some examples. There are things like this available probably at your local grocery store. So again, I'm going to show you real quickly the nutrition label, right, that we had talked about. For example, on this is a bag of chips. Typically, you would look at that nutrition label right there and you would see all of your nutrients that you're getting from the bag of chips. But what I want to do is I want to retrain you to, instead of looking at that, look at the ingredients. And so the ingredients on this bag of chips are actually right up here. A lot of times they're actually closer to the actual nutrition label itself. But what you want to do is you want to learn what some of the healthier products are that you want in your food. So we mentioned earlier just trying to stay away from things that were heavily refined grains, definitely refined oils, like vegetable oil, try to stay away from. Much better if we can substitute things like avocado oil or olive oil for that. So what I've done, I love chips and salsa. So what I've done, instead of eating your typical Dorito corn tortilla chips, I have found these are actually Siete brand grain-free tortilla chips. I don't have anything against grain. These are just the healthiest ones I've been able to find. And so if we look here on the back and we read that ingredients list, we see they're made with cassava flour, which is made from a root. And so it's a minimally processed root, basically, that's just ground up, and they make flour out of it. So nothing wrong there. You've got avocado oil instead of your typical vegetable oil that chips would be fried in. Let's see here. We've got some coconut flour in there. Again, just ground up coconut. Ground chia seeds. So we've got some awesome nutritional benefits with the chia seed. A little bit of sea salt. And we've got citric acid and lime oil. So really the only thing on there that we would even maybe have an issue with would be the citric acid, but again, we're still not talking about anything that's real heavily processed there. So a really good alternative to a typical tortilla chip. The other thing too, a lot of times, people enjoy eating crackers. Well, instead of crackers, what about your unsalted mixed nuts? This is a great way for you to get some really healthy fats. I think honestly that a lot of the nuts inside of this, particularly this one has cashews in it, particularly the cashews, I think they taste like animal crackers, to be honest with you. But that mixed nuts are just a great thing that we can substitute for things like crackers. And these healthy fats, really you can eat quite a bit of, and still feel pretty good about yourself. I'll talk about my philosophy on calories and fats in another video, but this is a great alternative. And then last but not least, I used to be a huge ice cream eater. Used to love to have milkshakes, strawberry milkshakes. So what I've done, I've actually created it's a shake smoothie that's really really thick and has a milkshake type consistency to it. And I'll actually make a separate video where I actually make the shake, but just to show you what all I put in there every day, and it tastes delicious. You would think that it's just a milkshake, from an ice cream parlor. I put some healthy. We've got some flaxseed that we put in there every day. Some chia seed that we put in there every day. We're getting some good omega-3 fatty acids. Also got some pumpkin seeds in there. A whole banana. We put a banana in there. Organic chopped spinach, a great way to get spinach into your diet, particularly if you're like me and you typically wouldn't eat spinach real willingly by itself. We'll put some of that in there. You don't even know it's in there. And then some good organic blueberries. And then again, some healthy fats. We've got some almond butter here as well. And again, this is a minimally processed almond butter. If you look on the label there, and let's see if we can get it in there. I don't know how well you guys can see that. But the only thing that is in this almond butter is in fact almonds. There's not any additional additives in there. So I hope this is helpful and at least giving you a starting point on what you can do from a nutritional standpoint to help create a diet that is really more of a diet that nature intended. Again, raw foods that are straight from the ground, straight from animals, things that, as I mentioned earlier, Jesus would have eaten 2,000 years ago. If he ate it, it's good enough for me. And so we'll leave it there. This is already a pretty long video, but we will have some future videos about nutrition. And then we've got some really great videos coming up. Make sure to check back, hit the subscribe button. We're going to have some future videos very soon with caregivers, and we're going to talk a little bit about how they were able to impact my cancer treatment, as well as the impact that this whole situation had on them. And then we'll also visit with my daughter sometime very soon and talk to her. She was about 4 years old when I was going through all this, and talk to her about what she remembers and how it's impacted her life, and ways that she can be supported in her emotional recovery from this traumatic experience as well. But thank you guys for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next episode.